Hello everyone, welcome to our channel, The Truth Finder. In this chilling video, we delve deep into the minds of infamous serial killers, including Jeffrey Dahmer, to uncover the shocking truth behind their facade of normalcy and the hidden depths of their psychopathy, the traits that set them apart, and the unsettling questions they raise about those around us. Don't miss out, like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. Are you ready? Let's begin. Those words were uttered by Jeffrey Dahmer, a notorious serial killer known for his heinous crimes, which included acts of violence, sexual offenses, necrophilia, and cannibalism. His gruesome spree claimed the lives of 17 young men in Milwaukee during the late 1970s, 80s, and 90s. Dahmer's story serves as a chilling reminder of the hidden depths of psychopathy, where a facade of normalcy allowed him to elude justice for so long. It forces us to ponder how someone who appears entirely ordinary on the surface could commit such horrifying acts. We yearn to peer into the minds of such individuals, seeking to grasp the reasons behind their actions. As a society, we often believe we've unraveled the mysteries of psychopaths and serial killers. In 1980, Canadian forensic psychologist Robert Hare compiled a comprehensive list of 22 traits used to diagnose psychopathy. Remarkably, this list remains the gold standard among experts today. These traits include superficial charm, grandiosity, habitual lying, impulsive behavior, a tendency towards boredom, a lack of remorse, an absence of long-term plans, leading a parasitic lifestyle, and an inability to accept responsibility. When we conjure the image of a psychopath, these traits often align with our perception of a person who is self-absorbed, deceitful, manipulative, and unconcerned with others' emotions. However, it's essential to distinguish between being a psychopath and a serial killer, as they are not one and the same. Contrary to common belief, being diagnosed as a psychopath doesn't automatically mean someone is inclined to kill, and the reverse is also true. Being a serial killer doesn't necessarily make one a psychopath. Jeffrey Dahmer illustrates this point perfectly. While he was a serial killer, he didn't neatly fit the profile of a classic psychopath. Experts use a revised 40-point version of the Hare Psychopathy Checklist to assess individuals. Those who meet 25 to 35 of the criteria are considered psychopathic. Surprisingly, notorious figures like Richard Ramirez, Ted Bundy, and John Wayne Gacy all fell within this range. However, Dahmer only matched 13 of the warning signs. You can glimpse this difference when watching his post-arrest interviews. In those moments, he appears remarkably calm, introspective, modest, remorseful, and candid about his actions and motivations. In contrast, many other serial killers struggled to maintain such a facade of normalcy once their crimes were exposed. Ted Bundy, for instance, spent years attempting to deceive and manipulate to avoid taking responsibility for his deeds. John Wayne Gacy didn't show a shred of remorse when he talked about his crimes. He referred to his victims as if they were his possessions. Richard Ramirez, on the other hand, openly boasted about his love for killing people and relishing in their deaths. Both of them exhibited clear signs of narcissism and psychopathy, traits that make them stand out in a crowd, setting them apart from regular folks like you and me. What sets Jeffrey Dahmer apart, and in some ways makes him even more terrifying than his contemporaries, is the fact that he didn't fit the mold of the typical crazed, egotistical maniac everyone was on the lookout for. He looked and spoke just like an average person. He could have been someone you knew well, like a classmate, a close friend, a cousin, or even your brother, and you wouldn't have suspected anything unusual. Jeffrey's father, Lionel Dahmer, wrote a whole memoir about the shock he experienced when trying to reconcile his memories of his eldest son as a sweet, playful, and curious child, with the horrifying acts he committed against so many people. When people hear about cases like Jeffrey Dahmer's, they often concentrate on the perpetrator's upbringing, thinking that there must have been abuse, neglect, or severe psychological harm during their early years that led them down this dark path. While this inclination is understandable, it typically doesn't provide a clear explanation for the actions of serial killers. Their motivations, desires, and impulses usually don't have a straightforward cause and effect connection rooted in childhood trauma. In Dahmer's situation, although his childhood wasn't ideal, there's no clear proof of significant physical abuse or mistreatment even remotely comparable to the terrible things he did to his victims. When Dahmer was in court for his sentencing, he said something quite surprising. "This isn't about me trying to escape punishment. I never desired freedom. To be honest, I wanted to die. My aim in this case was to explain that my actions weren't driven by hatred. I didn't hate anyone. I understood that I was sick, maybe evil, or both. Now I genuinely believe I was unwell. I'm aware of the immense harm I've caused. I tried my best to make things right after my arrest, but no matter what I did, I can't erase the awful pain I've inflicted." His words capture the very questions that haunt us all. What drives serial killers to commit these heinous acts? And how can someone who seems perfectly stable unleash such monstrous cruelty upon humanity? Experts have delved into this darkness and discovered that the impulse to inflict extreme harm often originates deep within the individual, rather than being influenced by external factors, as we tend to assume. Dahmer, for instance, described this inner urge as a compulsion that began to take hold of him around the age of 9 or 10. His fascination started innocently enough with the lifeless body of a crab he found on the beach. But over the following years, it evolved. He began dissecting small animals, including dogs and cats, captivated by the inner workings of their bodies. In his early teens, these desires took a darker turn, shifting from animals to humans. It's important to note that Dahmer wasn't driven by voices in his head or acting on impulsive anger or revenge. He embarked on secret, premeditated missions, seeking out strangers with the sole intent of committing unspeakable atrocities. After his first murder in 1978, Dahmer made attempts to restrain these urges, managing to go 6 years without claiming another victim. However, like many others in his gruesome category, he couldn't hold back the uncontrollable urge indefinitely. Psychologists often use the 5-factor model to categorize personality traits, which breaks down human personality into 5 fundamental dimensions: extroversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, neuroticism, and openness to experience. The profile most commonly associated with psychopathy includes low levels of agreeableness and conscientiousness, along with higher neuroticism. This type of individual exhibits limited sensitivity to the emotions of others, struggles to adhere to societal rules and standards, and is prone to emotional instability or mood disturbances. Researchers have suggested that one of the key differences between successful psychopaths, who manage to achieve a degree of success according to society's standards, and unsuccessful psychopaths, who struggle to make any notable accomplishments, is the conscientiousness trait that makes a person diligent, organized, purposeful, and competent. Imagine there's a diagnosed psychopath named Jimmy who lacks empathy, tends to deceive others, and harbors an inflated sense of self-importance. In most professional settings, these psychopathic characteristics would make Jimmy appear unlikable and untrustworthy to his colleagues and bosses, putting him at a disadvantage. However, let's also suppose that Jimmy possesses a high level of conscientiousness. This conscientiousness would help him recognize the potential problems arising from his lack of empathy, deceitfulness, and grandiosity. It might motivate him to adjust or conceal these negative traits, allowing him to succeed in the workplace. Conscientiousness also plays a role in distinguishing between different types of serial killers. Those with higher levels of conscientiousness are termed organized killers. They tend to lead systematic lives, hold skilled jobs, possess strong social skills, and often have high intelligence. On the other hand, disorganized killers exhibit lower conscientiousness, tend to have lower intelligence, and are less concerned about leaving behind messy crime scenes. The critical distinction between psychopaths and serial killers is that for psychopaths, conscientiousness can be a positive trait that helps them manage and control their negative psychopathic qualities. In contrast, when it comes to serial killers, there are no positive aspects to be found. What makes these individuals even more dangerous is that they seem to combine their inner murderous urges with well-organized, competent, and deliberate plans. This deadly pairing allows them to find strategic ways to avoid detection, at least for a while. Take Dahmer, for instance. He committed horrific crimes within his apartment, concealing bodies in various stages of decomposition. Yet whenever someone mentioned an unusual odor or noticed anything out of the ordinary, he always had a carefully constructed explanation that made sense. He methodically selected his victims from racial minorities and the LGBTQ+ community, because he sadly knew that law enforcement at the time was less likely to prioritize crimes against these groups. People like Dahmer force us to grapple with unsettling questions. How can we spot killers who expertly hide behind a facade of normalcy? This question fuels much of the intrigue surrounding psychopaths and serial killers. It's the notion that anyone around us, perhaps even our neighbors, close friends, or family members, could secretly harbor desires to harm others. As you watch this, you might be haunted by the thought that one of these individuals could be lurking in your midst, concealing dark fantasies about causing harm for their pleasure. In the chilling words of Ted Bundy, "We are your sons, we are your husbands, and we are everywhere." Thank you for watching. Let us know your thoughts about this video in the comments section below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel and ring the bell for notifications for more amazing videos on true crimes.